Tick-tock, do-do-do-do. Tick-tock, do-do-do-do. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. I want to fly like an osprey to the sea. Fly like an osprey, let my spirit carry me. I want to fly like an osprey till I'm free. Lord, to the revolution. People babies that don't have enough to eat. Shield the children, no shoes on the feet. House the people living in the street. Oh, there's a solution. I want to fly like an osprey to the sea. Fly like an osprey, let my spirit carry me. I want to fly like an osprey till I'm free. Oh, through the revolution. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Research Roadshow and another episode of Protecting the Nest. Good morning, Carol. Good morning, Amber.
Good morning.
Hi, John.
What's
It's nice
the
to
big
hear that
topic for
song
today?
again. Well, I love that song by Norman, and it makes me think of the photo that we used to have up at the beginning. I think that was the osprey that had caught the hammerhead shark. We should get that again.
I remember that.
Because it kind of reminds me that ospreys have such incredible sharp eyesight, and that they can see things from really far away. And
Is
that's
better
a
than
bit
an
of
eagle?
That was osprey in the picture. But yeah, eagles and ospreys, any bird of prey has these amazing eyes that are way better than our eyes, actually.
I'll tell you something interesting about an osprey. So what's funny about an osprey is they are better fishermen than eagles. And a lot of times eagles will steal what ospreys worked really hard to find. And the eagles will then use that, grab it, and pretend it was theirs all along. And ospreys are like, if that's the way you have to do things, fine. They let it go in midair. They give it to the eagle, and then they just go get more. And so it says a lot more about the character of an osprey versus the character of an eagle.
I like that story. That's a good one.
Because it's true.
Yeah. It's the best kind of story.
Yeah.
Well, things are kind of heating up, I think, this last couple of weeks. There's lots of interesting things coming out. I think, there's a lot more people than us ospreys trying to figure out what's going on. So it's multiplying in a really wonderful way. But it's still censored, we're still, it's hard to break through to the other side.
Yeah, well, we're getting lots of requests for a little bit of positive news every now and then. And so I'm gonna try hard in my broadcasts to put out those, like I mentioned in our conversation yesterday morning, about the clerk of courts here in Lorain County, Ohio, who was looking at 2 years in prison, but finally, thanks to citizens rallying around her, with a tiny, tiny bit of help from me, she was let go.
Well, nice work, John. Yeah, some stuff is happening. I put a link in there if you want to show it to the Internet of Eyes that has been kind of put in place during the last couple of years while we were all in lockdown for a while. And can you put that up, John? We can look at the picture. But what it is, it's installation. I can't remember exactly how many. I think it was like 500 million or something. Cameras were installed during this time all over everywhere. And so that's why I think this theme of our eyes is a good one, because this smart cities, there are some sample ones that are already turned on, but this wiring project happened just recently while we weren't really noticing. So it really sped up, and there are certain things like these cameras are on a lot of light poles. The light poles are a big part of this. I think George talked about it, maybe a year or so ago, about the light poles that are hooked up with sensors in clothes. And this was going on in Wuhan, actually, when it happened in 2020. But now it's rolling out. And I think we all need to really keep our eyes open in our own cities for what's happening and point it out and talk about it. This guy, I think you were just, his name is Aman Jabi, and he was an internet a luminary in Silicon Valley, and he moved to Montana and started really seeing what Silicon Valley was doing and their part in all this. I think he's an electrical engineer, so he started putting two and two together about what the big story is, and how this is the surveillance one world that's really being rolled out, and it's based on zero trust. That's the concept of it, is that rather than having freedom to do what we want to do and talk to who we want to talk, and spend our money the way we want to spend, go where we want to spend, that all those things are controlled with the central currency, the digital currency. And that it's just like China with the social credit scoring. And the concept that sells this to us is the idea of, there's no more poverty, but the reality is really that's because all of our resources have been taken from us. So it's this level playing field that's way down at the bottom. And there's no more hunger because all the food sources are controlled. And now we're seeing, the insects ground up and GMO food, and the control is coming from the huge big corporations, unfortunately. So the food that we need to detox our bodies, the healthy food, is what is going to be limited. And we saw a little bit of this probably in rollouts like in Australia and now in Canada, where people have to report their gardens. They can't just grow a garden and have it be their garden. They have to report on it. And that's part of this control of the food supply. And when the money's controlled and you can only spend it in certain places, it's this sort of slowly clamping down of, everything. So we just need to really turn up our sharp osprey eyes and see, how is this happening? I think our municipal governments, there is this whole smart city thing that Harry talked about that's coming in. It's not the county, it's not the state, it's not the city, there's this other kind of governmental body. I can't remember. I think, John, you probably remember what it's called.
ICLEI,
Yeah,
ICLEI.
ICLEI. And what does that mean?
I'm going to look it up right now. I used to know it by heart, but it is insidious.
Yeah, and apparently that's what's allowing this to happen is the telecoms are putting these in, but they're not really following the rules that were already there. There's these new rules that are superimposed, and so that idea that they can make the rules, and then as we saw with what happened during COVID, is those rules just kept changing. So they can make the rules and they can break the rules sort of at whim. So there's not any standard anybody's measured to, and things can just kind of start happening. And if anyone calls them on it, like we're calling the CDC saying, you know, what's going on, that we're not really, this is not a measure of health. We're seeing that there's higher death rates. We're seeing all these things because we're looking at them, but it's not getting into the news and it's being completely ignored.
And Carol, did you see that there is a leaked video right now? I'm looking for it. A couple of people very much so talking about it and very upset because they found out that there was there was nothing monitoring any side effects from the vaccine in Israel, even though they said they had a monitoring service. And now that it came out in a meeting, people are livid because the documents they were given were false because they were just told there were no side effects. And now they had to admit that they didn't really have a system of monitoring at all. And so the rest of the world was waiting on that data. And everyone was told, no, we're going off of these studies. And some of us who did digging, we did find that there were studies because other groups were monitoring these things and other doctors were actually publishing their findings, but it wasn't considered to be the findings because those who were tasked to be in charge of the health and wellness in Israel that was supposed to deliver that information to the rest of the world, to the CDC, did not set up a system to monitor those things. And so people are very much so upset. And apparently a big argument ensued at a meeting, and people went head to head. And so it might get ugly pretty soon with some of the truth coming out about people putting pharmaceutical companies ahead of the health of individuals and the investments that those countries made in front of the actual individuals that they count on, by the way, as their tax base. So you want a healthy citizenry to work in order for you to extract tax money in order for survival of not only the people, but their government. And then when there is a backstabbing of sorts or a kind of move aside, we've got other business to do and your health isn't one of them, then what ends up suffering is they don't get as many workers. They get people who distrust them, and they get other people who have lots of questions. And it's hard to actually maintain a good work ethic and to actually do your best for your country when you feel like your country has turned its back on you. And it seems as though people all over the world are facing this kind of reality. And it would be nice if leaders all over the world would understand what they're doing to the mind frame, the mindset, and to the souls of their citizens, what's happening. And then these same entities want to gather all together and have one world order when separate. They cannot even handle separate, and which should be much easier than a huge conglomerate with a few people, because you have lots of leaders in each country that can't handle their specific country. Now take that and make it one immeasurable force and see how much dysfunction, chaos, and absolute discrepancy of morality will come into it. This is why I do not and I will not support that type of government. And we would all be very, very wise to think twice about the dysfunctionality that's happening all around us, and to not let them convince us that maybe if we all join together, it'll be better. No, it'll be quite worse. Thank you so much.
Well,
Well, a
one of
lot
the
of people
things,
are getting it. A lot of people in foreign countries, even those that don't enjoy the Bill of Rights that we have in America, are getting it, and they are protesting as much as their police forces will allow. And Israel is a good example because in Israel there's a pecking order. There is a kind of a caste system growing there as well, and those in the bottom tier are not happy.
well, one of the things I've noticed is that the watchdog agencies like the CDC and the FDA, um, we have this impression that they're there to help us, and they in the past the system has been at least a little bit functional in that they had protocols that meant things had to be tested. There were rules that the FDA had to go through. But in now what's happened, and this has happened in the level of the WHO too, instead of being financed by the government for the people, there's these foundations. So the CDC has a foundation, the FDA has a foundation, the WHO has foundations, and the foundations accept money from all the big, huge corporations, the pharmaceutical corporations, the very corporations that the agencies are supposed to be watchdogging on top of. So that's what we call the unholy alliance. And you can see it if you actually search, like say CDC Foundation. You'll see a huge big list of all the companies that are really giving the money for the CDC to function. And so the people that work there answer to those people, and the money also gets earmarked. They give whatever $1 million, but it has to be used on this kind of research. So that really affects what the whole function of the agencies. In the WHO, we saw it move from just being the WHO. A lot of the foundation money moved over to Gavi, which was called the Global Vaccine Initiative, was what Gavi meant. And the WHO used to say that their mission was to improve the health of the world. But then when they became this other organization, supposedly under the WHO, their mission was to promote vaccines for the whole world and to, enable that for 100% of the population. Not about their health. It's not about their health.
I have a feeling it never has been. I have a feeling that it's always been, and I think this takes me back to paperclip. And I know people get very frustrated with individuals who bring this up. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. So when you have groups of people that decide, because they were given the orders to do so, that they would treat people that they figured were not human or not worthy of the same respect as those specific humans demanded themselves, decided to take it upon themselves to test other human beings in a way that humans had never been tested before, or at least in recorded history. And so because of that, it seemed like we had released some kind of a beast, right? Where there was this taste for, well, we got this far by torturing, by leaving people outside in the cold to see what temperature they actually froze, by inserting things in their bloodstream, in their body, to see what reactions they would get from it. And it seemed like it was kind of like a drug for some of the scientists and some of these individuals that are put in a position in which they promise huge things to leadership. They want to be on the top tier of countries to show, look how advanced we are. So we demand your respect because we can heal you of what ails you. And so in this fight for domination and in this fight for, some weird, incredulous superiority over the rest of the human race, this beast of tasting and testing on human beings in a way that is so unholy and immoral at its very being, I think has led to what we've seen happen before us. And then we really don't see the backlash with those who are tasked to protect us when they don't ask these specific questions about what's actually happening. I'm seeing people fall from strokes and heart attacks. I'm seeing things happen on an exponential level. Why aren't we seeing a reaction that would be a natural reaction from those who say that they care about us, from those who say that they're there to protect us and to make us healthy? Because you naturally, you would assume to see that natural reaction. Oh, Houston, we have a problem, right? And then automatic reaction because of a mistake, or overplaying a hand, or not understanding the science quite like you thought you did, and then rectifying the situation immediately, stopping all mandates, reviewing what herd immunity is, giving people the tasks and tools to perfect or to make their immune system as best as possible, lower the prices of healthy foods, raise the prices of junk food. These are things that could be done on a tangible level that someone who had your best interest at heart would automatically do. And so the fact that we don't see this happening, it reminds me of the taste that you once saw during human, experiments that took place in World War II. And that's why it always takes me back to Operation Paperclip. And I wish that it wouldn't. And I wish that we as humans, if we were so evolved, as it's crammed down our throat forever, there's only evolution, there's only evolution, there's no creator, there's only evolution, that's drummed into our children's brain every day at school. I wish at some point these same people who drum there's only evolution would frickin' evolve and stop with the paperclip nonsense. We're all onto you. Stop. Full stop.
Well, I think you're right at pinpointing it to those ideas that kind of were underpinning Nazism. But those ideas actually came, the Rockefellers were real into the idea of eugenics. And Hitler and, some of the people in Germany from those days were real excited about that idea. Oh, we can make this Superman human race. And, then there becomes some people are better than others idea that gets moved forward along the way. But one of the things it evolved into, then that kind of collapsed, and there were the Nuremberg trials, and some of them came here, but they changed the language from eugenics to genetics, and also to sort of the green idea. And I didn't realize this until last week, but one of the things I noticed was that the idea for carbon footprint was invented by Ogilvy Mather, which was a giant big advertising agency for their client, British Petroleum. and it was in order to shift the blame of all the pollution. This was from a few years ago, when I think it was maybe during the one of the big oil spills or something, and they wanted to put the blame off the oil companies and put it on people. And that idea moved forward, that people are rotten and it's people's problem that we're using all this carbon and that the world is being destroyed, that people are bad, they're greedy, they don't deserve to live. It's an evolution of the Nazi ideas, and it's become the Green New Deal.
And Carol, don't you find it interesting that they say people, like as if they're not people? And then if you say, well, are you not a person? Then you're a conspiracy theorist. But as my dad used to say, and my mom used to say, because we weren't allowed to have hate in our house. I mean, my dad was more of like the male character who will say, the jokes that are untoward that all dudes say in every race to make fun of all the other men. But my mom was like, we don't say this word, this word, this word. She was the epitome of the female who was worried about the feelings of what that might sound like with that untoward joke. And, and so they would have their little banter. But I remember learning from both of them. And one of my favorite sayings was, you're not superior to any other human if you poo and pee. That's my favorite one. We all do it. And until you don't have to anymore, you don't get to quantify yourself as being better than the other. I mean, and I think we are up against principalities. We're up against things and forces unseen, negative forces. And it's a challenge that might be new to humans being conscious of, in a way in which many are conscious of, rather than a few prophets or a few of those leading away where everyone else is sitting on a mountain asking, tell me more, but they don't quite get it. I think lots of human beings get it now, that there's things that we're fighting that are not physical. They're of spiritual nature, and they're of our ugliest parts, right? That we reveal within ourselves with by our carnal natures. And so I think it's time for us to stand up and take the authority that we're allowed, because we are physical beings. So instead of attacking each other physically, we need to use our tongue as swords, and we need to bring the truth to light, and actually be able to understand, kind of what we're looking at, and be big kids about it, be
and have
about
dialogue
it.
and listen.
Yeah,
Well,
because
hi, Tara. How are you?
Hey, Tara.
Hi, I'm awesome. I love what you guys are talking about. And I think that what you're describing right now, Amber, is within the realm of those people who can be healed and can be saved, and who are on the, the humane level of the light. But when it's weird, because in the beginning of all this, I've gotten the habit of, when you're talking about certain people, you have to kind of do people, because it's like they might be operating from a body that looks human. And I'm not talking about our friends and neighbors or whatever. I'm talking about the people in these unseen places who are housing the principalities, and so what people don't understand is, they might understand something's wrong, but you have to understand the field that we're on, because you can easily get confused and run right off a cliff. You know what I mean? And that's not to be like threatening or anything. It's to just say, people don't understand that psychopaths, like literal psychopaths, are running these, shows that we talk about, from these, so people don't understand that. They think, oh, the science, but these companies, they have for a long time, they have been, and we all know who they are. We can break it down. I don't mean every company, but the idea of like, we actually want to poison things. We actually want to get away with these things. We don't have this symbiotic view of how planet Earth should be. We have, it's a parasitic nature, and we can recognize it in all kind of different places. And that's kind of what we're dealing with right now, with waves of people of waking up and being like, oh my goodness, there's something I need to be looking out for. What is it? And there is a journey between recognizing those that are just getting caught up in it, but mean well, and they have a good intention, and who are in these higher places running these bigger, evil operations, literally translating evil energy onto our physical plane, which we can't have anymore.
Yeah, it's
has to
like
be
a
over.
scientific dictatorship, and I know a lot of my friends, they don't want to do the work to really try to unravel it and understand what's going on. They say, well, just tell me what the answer is. But then you end up in this place where you're listening to people that have these really screwball ideas, like Harari, that people aren't worthy of existing anymore, and since they're hackable, just give it up. You might as well assume you're already hacked, so that's it, you're worthless, just let it happen. But does that make any sense?
Yeah.
As thinking,
Well,
Well,
that's
it's
really sad.
vampiric.
That's a sad life to be in, to look at human beings in such a bar-coded way, right? And not as if each individual with their specific fingerprint were brought into this world for a specific purpose. And when somebody overlooks or overshadows, so I've just never been the type of person. Now I will, if I'm in a situation and I'm looking at people, you can tell those that might be dangerous, might have an issue, might have an underlying thing that you might want to steer clear of, or a situation. But that doesn't mean that you then disown all of the human race because you've run into a few people that are at some crux in their life, which is depicting a particular behavior that might be dangerous for you. However, you have to remember to look at children and look at the elderly and actually see the beauty within, because the people in the middle, yes, we tend to mess it up a bit, but it's because we're learning a lot. And there's a lot of missteps with that. And the thing about humanity is to understand that you've made a lot of mistakes and to allow others to be able to make mistakes. And what's beautiful about mistakes is that they're mistakes. What you don't want is to allow someone to pretend it's a mistake and to purposely persecute others and then play you and your feelings and your emotions against you while they are pushing a certain narrative that will then not allow for you to have any autonomy or any say or any personal freedoms in order to direct you into a pen like your cattle. And so we need to be able to discern that and have compassion for those in science that actually do care and are looking for answers and are looking to protect their specific country they work in, and that are working with others in tandem. But then we also have to look out for and have discernment for those who have a miserable life and they don't care what happens. They don't have offspring, or they do, and they're, training them to be just the same, or they've decided I'm part of the group that gets to, go unscathed or untouched. And these people over here in the wilderness, that, we'll chase them to the wilderness, and then we'll chase them past the wilderness. These are the issues that we really need to concentrate on, the discernment, because it's one thing to be appreciative of scientists, doctors, nurses. It's one thing to be appreciative of pharmaceuticals, but it's another thing to then say everything from nature is gross because I only trust a pharmaceutical company. Excuse me. Like, that is not balance, nor is it normal. And all you're doing is serving a bottom line. So we have to have a discernment there and an understanding of how business works, and not to make ourselves vulnerable. Appreciate business, appreciate those who go into business, but at the same time, don't allow that business that in its very state is exploitative because it needs business. Don't allow yourself to be exploited for a bottom line in order for them to then take away freedoms by them stating to your better emotions how much they care about you as they are doing so. So I think the discernment we really need to work on as a species, because I find that we move in like this big, fire, and everybody runs that way rather than going, wait, do I see smoke? Do I smell smoke? Where's the heat? Where do I feel the heat? And pause for a minute, because when there's a fire, you can obviously see a fire. But if you don't see a fire and you're hearing it, hold up. Let me see.
Some of the doctors that have been working together, the doctors that specifically work with people and are seeing, the damage being done and are real shocked about that, they're also shocked about not being part of the discussion all of a sudden. They used to be part of the discussion. They used to be able to say, well, get together in a bunch of doctors and talk about it and solve problems and write papers, and they felt heard. And now they're not. They're losing their licenses. They're being cut off from the discussion if they don't go along with something that isn't real science, because you have to be able to question science. So this is a scientific dictatorship that isn't even scientific.
Yes.
So that's a kind of scary thing. But one of the slippery slopes, I think, that we got into this predicament by is all the social media companies that sort of grew up in Silicon Valley fairly recently within our lifetimes. They started valuing data instead of people. We were looked at as our data and as a money stream. And so you could have free platforms by giving up your data and your connections and the way you worked. And so they learned from people all this value somehow, or we became a source of income, of their income. And that's part of how this transition has happened, where the big business is really harvesting the data. It's not just genetics. It's what we do. It's our behavior.
Well, I taught for a long time at a certain medical school, and there was this student one time that was so upset because he had gone to medical school after getting a degree or working in engineering. And so he was so frustrated because he thought that the medical industry was going to have a cause and effect level of reasonableness of structure like engineering. And it was like so, he was so upset. And at the time, I didn't really understand all this. I just told him, try to incorporate what you would like to see in the industry with what you bring something new that you have that, other people don't have, and just talking about holistic medicines and stuff. But, and another story is, probably have a lot, but my grandparents when they first got married in the 40s, they worked at a mental hospital, and they were very good to their patients. They had luck, make or break it, but who knows with making the decisions. This is before medication, so they're trying different stuff there. They had the tunnels that they would connect to the thing, so eerie now. But I remember my grandpa would always tell this story about this patient who, like, he didn't want to eat the food because he swore they were doing something to it, whatever. And my grandpa, like, he brought him to the kitchen and he's showing him and like the whole thing. And it's so wild now because these stories we kind of reflect on and we're like, so just like a totally different view. You're like, so that guy, not saying he was right or wrong, but who you think that they're against experimenting on mental, people in a mental hospital, whether they belong there or not, so
Well, we
these are
know that
things.
happened now. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've seen.
So we need to wind it back, and we need to recognize, where does this all come from? And when it comes to communications, there's direct communications, and then there's the sublime. Okay. And so those of us that have had a lifetime of really good communications with our friends and family, we're used to being direct. We're used to being direct and getting a good response. And so that's, something that we all talk about often, is like just the weird getting through. Sorry, I just got interrupted. But one thing I just want to wind it back is something to do with abuse. Okay. And so there's different levels of abuse, and some of it is very subtle. The stuff, not subtle, but just less than aggressive, right? So the stuff that they layer on society, like, for example, throughout this whole journey we've just been to, it's abusive, okay? It's been abusive to the people. Then you take examples of people that have had hardcore abuse, and those are the people that are able to perpetuate things in the industry, especially the art world. In the past it's been more sublime. Now it's coming out in this more direct ways. So the things that are really hard for people to grasp, it's because most of us are lucky enough to have a very positive beginning of our life, our childhood, and our structure. But these people, they've had abuse weaved into this life in a way that when they express themselves, okay, it's very ugly. And that is a lot of what we're dealing with in the art world, whether it be like a cover for trafficking or whatever has been going on. But these are the clues in the sublime. So these are the calms that carry throughout the ages. And so you look and when you find these symbols, and it's just, there's things that each person will recognize that nobody else has recognized. At the same time, when you bring it to the table, it's going to overlap with things that other people have seen. So things are really coming to light right now. But I just think that there's a lot coming out with the Balenciaga and all these like art, which I've been watching for a long time. And just to like wind it back a little bit more before I shut up right here is I remember even subtle things when you follow these patterns. Like in 2016, it was like all of a sudden all these different places was talking about the pantsuit, this ugly ass pantsuit, and it was like a Hillary Clinton thing. Okay. So I meant that maybe coming out of my mouth just sounds like vague and weird, but it's like when you follow the art and you get the comms from that, it's like, who are they talking to and why? You know what I mean? So we really have to dig in deeper, because this whole toxifying thing is nothing new. We survived so far, but we just have to really get down to that Gordian knot.
Well, I'll tell you, and here is, you mentioned Balenciaga. Okay. So I've been following this. And what's really odd is you've got Kanye out there really just being, I kind of think he's being as out there as much as possible because he needs money. He's in debt, and there's people willing to exploit that to get him to say specific things in order for him to survive in this climate. The other thing is, a while back, he complained, probably about 6 weeks ago, about his ex-wife, Kim, allowing their children to model for Balenciaga, and that she was modeling. But now, yesterday, he was just kicked off of Twitter because he took up for Balenciaga. And because he put that post up there, everyone's saying it's about something else. But soon after he did a post that showed that he was making excuses for the behavior of Balenciaga, his Twitter was ripped down. And so, I think that there's what we're dealing with is a bunch of like really dark things and people playing games to sway emotions, to take us off of focus when it comes to things that are actually happening. Like people who are getting a stroke and heart attack out of nowhere, athletes dropping on the field, science not wanting to release paperwork for 75 years and having to be taken to court so that side effects and things are brought up. And then on top of that, human beings tend to allow these aggressors to force them into a pendulum swing. What I mean is we don't want the pendulum to swing at all. We want to be so balanced that when we need to see a doctor for surgery, we go. When we need to take care of our immune system with vitamins and supplements, we do that. But what they want us to see as is we never trust a doctor again because look what happens. And then we die of something that could have been fixed by surgery, or we only, see a doctor and nothing else, and they might mess something up and then we die because the doctor made a mistake. So they want us on this phrase. They want us all the way swinging one side of the pendulum. And when we adjust and when we come to the truth, it doesn't behoove those who are playing games with our emotions and causing people to get wound up from one crisis to another to allow us to center ourselves and stop the pendulum swing. So we always have to be cautious of when a new emotion comes in or when they release a new news story and we're supposed to get all riveted up. It's the crisis from one side to the other. And then there's no rest. And then there's no balance, and we're not able to see the forest from the trees. So I'm hoping that we're always able to remind people: don't allow someone to control your emotions. Mm-hmm. Don't let go of your emotions. Don't say I don't want emotions. Don't see something sad and say I'm too numb to cry. Right? Always have that sympathy, but you have to be in touch with your logical brain as well. You have to have both of those things in order to see truth, understand truth. She's adorable. Oh my goodness. So adorable. I mean, kids, that's our future. Like, this is why we're protecting the nest. If my children were here right now, they'd be doing the same thing. And there's something so beautiful about it, and so if she wants to stay, that's totally fine with me. And, it feels like we're constantly on this swing. And as a woman, I'm prone to going with that emotion. And a lot of times, as soon as I hear something and I get uncomfortable, I get angry, I have to breathe and say, wait a minute, that's your emotion. What does your logic say? And
yeah. Well, I think our logic now has to be to demand accountability, while we still can. And I was just reading not Sir, but Francis Boyle, I think of Sir Francis Doyle. But anyway, he wrote the legislation on biowarfare back with George Bush. He's an amazing lawyer. He's gone to Harvard and has all kinds of degrees, and he understands what's going on really well. And he said that right now his feeling is that the federal courts, I think some people don't agree with him, are lost. They're hopeless. But what we can do is take the people at the top of these agencies that are supposed to report to us and hold them personally responsible for genocide, mass murder. And he said the way to do it legally is to collect people who have been damaged by either their family member has died or has been damaged, and band together, find a lawyer. And there are now lots of organizations of legal help to do this, and to bring civil suits against the top of these organizations that have been lying to us, that have been not following their own rules, that they're supposed to be testing these things and finding out what they are, and really holding them accountable in the legal system, in civil court, for murder, for conspiracy to commit murder, or conspiracy to actually do murder. And that's what we have to call it now. We have to use the right words, and that's the right words, that this has been intentional. And there's plenty of proof all over the place that we can find. So that's a step that we can take in our communities, is to gather people together and lawyers together and make that connection and put people's feet to the fire and say, no,
Carol,
we're not going to let it get worse.
I keep hearing people, they're not offering an excuse. They're just saying something like, well, I don't think it was intentional to hurt people. Okay, I get that what they're trying to express. My bigger issue is, well, if it is not and was not intentional, why is it still happening? Why are we still seeing commercials? Why are we still seeing people demanding? Like, understand, this is what's crazy. 3 days ago, Kamala Harris, our vice president, came out and said, you will need 1 booster a year. The very next day, someone who represents the CDC said, no, you will need up to 6 boosters. No, she's in Health and Human Services. So the CDC said, you need to be up to date with your boosters that they help. Then Kamala Harris said, you need 1 a year. Then the very next day, less than 24 hours, Health and Human Service person that works for the government said, no, you will need 6 boosters a year. That a little after every 2 months, you need to get another booster. And the insanity of, I feel like I'm stuck in this Groundhog Day loop of eggs are healthy, eggs are bad, butter's good, butter's bad, margarine's good, margarine's bad. It never ends. And so to then put science as your God, if you're someone who you don't believe anything past, the physical, great, and that this has become your new religion, I would very much so be afraid to follow a religion that in less than 24 hours, multiple people are coming out telling me multiple things about this very religion that I hold so dear that I'm willing to mock anyone else's faith that exists in the known universe. And yet mine doesn't have a solid foundation. It's much like they're standing on quicksand, convincing me that they are the Superman of the universe. And I just don't see a Superman here. I see a fallible creature that is demanding more respect than it's earning at this point. And I'm one of those, if you earn my respect, I'm there. If I know and I see that the return on my respect and my kindness is good for me and my household, for me and my nest, for me and my neighbors, for me and my family, I will adhere. I will therefore listen. But when I see that there are mistakes being made, and then there's obfuscation, and then there's gaslighting, when I point these things out, because I want an honorable conversation, and I'm pushed down and called a name and gaslit, that's when we have a problem. And all I see you is someone on quicksand, fighting, thrashing your arms about, and telling me to zip my lip. And I don't respect that. It's not respectable behavior. And I really wish that people, would understand we're in different algorithms. And I see my friends all the time give me paperwork and documents, and they're in such a tight algorithm that they have no idea that any of this other stuff exists whatsoever. And that's the sad part. And this is why I won't get mad at those who are following this, because they have no idea. And like the old adage, you don't know what you don't know. And so why would I hold my friends accountable and allow these entities to cause great division between me and those that I love, all because they're the ones who don't have the correct attitude towards us as human beings, and they're the ones manipulating the situation? I will hold them accountable. I will hold the fact they're standing on this quicksand as the issue, rather than attacking my friends and neighbors and causing me to go to war with people, all because we're slammed in different algorithms.
Well, that's when our communication with them goes from direct to sublime, because you're just kind of like, so people that I can't talk to, won't talk to me anymore. How do I get them information? You have to. That's why I was talking about the other thing about the, potential military tribunal and stuff like that. It's like, you have to think with these people, like, not these people, but people we don't care. You say, plant some kind of seed that will, a seed of doubt. Okay. So that thing is supposed to be a seed of doubt. Like people, like you're saying, you say it how it is. This is a murderous plan, and that doesn't mean every batch and every person or every situation. It's just a plan. It's a plan that they've tried to put a lot of money and a lot of action into, so we have to remember, with God, all things are possible. We're not going to lay down and be scared. We're going to understand the platform better, and we're going to communicate the best way that it will be received. Okay, so we're not going to sit here and bang our head against the wall when it's like they can't hear you. You have to say, well, whether you're praying to them or able to say something, it's like, hopefully, if you come to a decision, you'll say, yeah, the better thing is not injecting anything into my body. That's probably the best choice. So
yeah. And what I find odd is, like, there's very few people that know that yesterday in DC, at the Waldorf, people got a picture of Klaus Schwab, who's visiting DC. And the fact that he wants to really manipulate the world and force things, and he's not looked at as a foreign combatant at this point, but he's there meeting with Macron, Hunter Biden, and Kevin McCarthy, and they're trying to work out a deal of more money going to Ukraine. I get everyone's rathers and what they're wanting and what they're pushing for, but the way it looks at this point is, damn the American people. Who cares if inflation is out of control? Who cares if every city looks like a third world nation? Who cares if there's 10?
Oh, did she hit?
Sorry,
Oh.
yeah, my phone rang. I don't know why I wasn't supposed to. I've got my notifications off. Who cares if you in your city are looking at tents and more homeless each day? And who cares if the corruption in your own local government, because of those that have compromised them, comes before its citizenry? And who cares if your taxes have gone up, your insurance has gone up? And who cares if your food is filled with GMOs? That's really my issue, is that I'm told that I need to care about these bigger issues. I need to care about the rest of the world. I need to care about Ukraine. I need to care about Macron's France. I need to care about Klaus Schwab's feelings over in Davos, but I can't care about my neighbor. I can't care about inflation because I'm a namby-pamby. And if I have questions about what their meeting is about, I'm told, I'm too stupid. I'm not allowed. it's above my pay grade. I just need to trust the plan. Whatever is going on, if I don't know the plan, if I don't know what's happening, how can I trust it? If it's obfuscated and hidden and pushed away, and then I'm told to back away from asking any questions, how does that garner trust? And how does that make me combative? And how does that make me conspiratorial? I have questions, and we all should. And the sad thing is, if you're someone who tells people you don't get the right to have questions because I'm so biased for my political party or my political agenda, I'm willing to mock you as a person. And then when I don't get my way politically, then I'm going to demand and burn things down. We've got a problem about your emotional immaturity and the fact that you have not matured into a healthy adult. Because healthy adults understand that in order to get people to walk in lockstep, they actually have to know where they're stepping. And yet there's a demand for us to shut up and walk in lockstep. And when we have a question, we're castigated for it. And I'm not going to deal with that. And I sent John a picture of my new motto. And I'm going to have this motto every day, every single day when I wake up. I'm going to make a poster of it. I'm going to put it in my room so that I remember it every morning when I wake up. And it's, today I stand my ground. Today I hold feet to the fire. Today I protect my nest. Today I will demand truth. Today, tomorrow, and for the rest of my days. And I think we should all do that for our households. And in order, when we do that in our households, we're doing it for our community. We're doing it for our neighbors, and we're doing it for the rest of the world. And if you want globalism, try not to do this globalism you see. Start in your own house. And the better you are in your own house, the better you are for everyone else. And if everyone were to do that, we would have a great world. And no one would have to invade anyone else's space. No one would have to conglomerate everyone under one king or one superior being or five leading nations. And that's what we really need to remember, is that, we need our autonomy. We need to be able to oversee our household and protect our household. And no one, no matter who they are, can force their idealism down our throat. It's not okay, nor has it ever been. And it's not ever going to be okay by me.
Well, something that we had said earlier reminded me, I think something Carol was saying, I forgot, reminded me that we need choices. We can't just all be like, everyone's going to do this and that's it. It's like, no, we need choices in all things.
That's how nature works, actually. In actual nature, it's all the little choices that get made on the tiny, tiny levels, even cellular levels, even tinier levels. I think what you were talking about, Amber, is really that fractal nature of nature, that the more you make a difference in the world you can make a difference with, the more that's felt. It's felt on all levels at the same time and all dimensions at the same time, because we do matter. And somehow this globalism idea is exactly opposite to that. And that's where we have to get the accountability changed. And it's not going to just happen. We really do have to use every avenue we have, like the Who's down in Whoville, to raise our voices, and eventually it'll happen. We'll get through, but we don't do it by not raising our voices, though.
I think what I'm going to do is, so there's a couple of things that I really used to love. Leonard Nimoy on Spock. Right now, I'm a female. I could never be like Spock, but his reaction to when people got kooky and when things seemed to get really chaotic and crazy, and he would just cut his eyes, make a statement, and that's just what it was. Right? That I think that's how we need to approach a lot of this insanity. Look at it emotionally. Okay, measure it, hold on to that, but then look at logic of it. Turn around and make a very logical, non-emotional statement to then not give anyone an arena to call a name or to make a circus out of what you just said, and then just walk away like, I made my statement and there it stands. And that's that. So I think, there's a lot of strength in being able to put it logically in 2 or 3 sentences. Like when they are like, oh my gosh, I'm worried about monkeypox, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about this. And they're going, worry does nothing. Facts do everything. We will see the facts, and actually just stop the circus before it starts to go down this tube of insanity. And I think that, I really need to study that technique, because as a female, I'm like, oh gosh, these people, they're trying, and then I, get frustrated, and then I'm like, well, what can I say? I need to just be able to harness that almost immediately and have a comeback, because the more we can stop the crazy train from building and the anxiety from building, the less momentum it gets. And so the turnaround time and our reaction, that, we still hold on to our emotion, our kindness, our caring, and our love. And we never let that go, but we come back almost instantly with a very logical and matter-of-fact statement to nip that in the bud immediately.
The self-correction of the course is really important, that we self-corrected in a real systemic way. So because it's going to try to come back again, like it always does. But we have to go deep this time. We have to go much deeper than it's ever been gone before and put some systems in place.
Yeah.
That's our best hope of moving forward.
Carrie, you're on mute.
Was it Shakespeare that said brevity is the soul of wit?
Yeah.
I like that one.
And that's what Spock did. He
Yeah.
literally turned to them and say something. And I remember even as a child, I'd be like, well, there's that. And then
there's that.
Yeah. My total roller coaster of whatever was going on in the movie would just go.
Stopped it. Well,
wow.
When you say arena, it reminds me of kind of looking sort of at like a board game or a map or something, where you see all these crazy plays that are mixing up and something. And when you see that, you're not like, oh, I'm going to jump right into that and look at it from the inside. You're like, no, I think I'm going to keep this bird's eye view, because this looks like a tangled mess that I'm going to stay like off the board and look at it from over here. Yeah, potentially be much more effective and not, like you're saying, have to like, I mean, you can jump in there every once in a while just to get a little view, but that's designed for the people that want to just live a crazy craze. It's like the rest of it, us, we're like, okay, jump back to the bird's view so that we're not getting caught up in us all the stuff. And that is what I think is happening right now.
Yes.
We're having a big time social media jump, right? So anybody who is on, so you can have layers of stuff. You can go someplace where you're looking at documents, you're looking at forensic, people are bringing it to different levels. There's the art level, but then you go on to like mainstream. We all know what's going on with Twitter. This today's Kanye day. So so that to me is a circus that is taking the attention of people that need that level of drama, and the other thing that is something that I'm always coming from the perspective of is, when it comes to the psyops, it's like that's when let's put it this way, almost nobody thinks that psyops are going to be coming from the good guys, okay? Because lying is not, lying is bad. So the whole idea that people just aren't expecting the good guys to be lying or doing any kind of level of trickery, and to me, currently, I can't speak for other times, but currently I feel like the leaks are always the bad guys, and like the leaks, and a lot of what the true positive, beautiful, intelligent warriors that are working on this psyop level, you don't know what they're doing, because they're really good at what they do, and they need to push up dirt from when they need the water to not be clear. So it's not a black and white situation. Anybody that's trying to look at it that way is going to get really confused, because it is a hodgepodge of just about everything, and there's all the different little avenues and tentacles and all this stuff. When it comes to people directing these kind of operations, they're watching the people and the rhythms and the waves and how everything's going in a very talk about through the heart. You know what I mean? These are people that are fighting for us, and we don't even see them. So
Yeah.
so that's where my main faith of who on earth, besides just the people paying attention. And one of the things, Carol, that you're saying about like the lawyers and the getting into thing, like what we have to recognize coming forward, and we're all going to learn different levels of this, is contracts. The CDC or whoever puts up the stuff, we say, well, we don't contract with you, we don't have a contract with you, so I'm sorry, you have no jurisdiction in my life.
Well, I think what you were talking about a little earlier of, what the school plays and who's doing that and who are those people, and I think the new Whitney Webbism of one nation under blackmail, that's the impetus of what we actually see is the blackmail. That's
Yes.
that's what's in the media. That's what the CDC is doing, and Anthony Fauci, and that's what's moving all that. So we just keep needing to show that all the
Yeah.
evidence, everything we can find, because then it'll dissolve.
Yep. And Carol, you brought up Whitney Webb's blackmail. And so if we look at it from this perspective, and I'm so glad Tara brought up, the muddying of the waters. Okay, because what I see is, why do you blackmail someone unless you have them to use whenever you need them, right? So if we look at it from that perspective, I need Kanye for this because too many people are seeing this. And if this wave strikes, we just need to survive from this point to this point and in order to keep our power. And we can't, because too many people are finding this main thing out that will make us have, like, we are now needing of a crutch. And now we, are the susceptible ones. We're in the weaker position. So now, hey, Kanye, we're calling in your card. We need you to do this. You over here, we need you to do this. I think what I've realized in watching the muddying of the waters, when someone is purposed to actually disseminate this new bit of crazier information, what I found is as after they do it, they feel like, okay, I did my job. Then they take their eyes off it immediately because, hey, I tossed it in. Now let's move. And so what I've learned is to go, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I can't believe it. And then go right back to focusing on what needs to focus, because then they get to go to their peers and say, look, people are saying, oh my gosh, look at that. But then those people get their algorithm, but in less than 12 hours, it's right back where the focus was supposed to be, and then the person can say, I did my job, because I can almost say for certain that the people who are supposed to muddy the waters, I don't think they're taking pleasure in it. I don't think that they're very excited that that's their job. So let's do them the benefit of, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Oh, that's crazy. And then boom, right back to focus. Then they did their job, right? And we now have gone right back to what we were on. It's about taking power, understanding they're going to use everybody who's been compromised. And, some people, I don't feel bad about how they were compromised, but some people, it was done in a very evil way and it was malicious, and they just had no knowledge of it, and so they're hamstrung. And if anything, they need our help more than anything, because they
sometimes it happened really, really young too.
Yes. And they are stuck. And so we might think that those would be the very ones that would want to hurt us or get angry at us. No. They pray every day that people will come out and say something. And those who are tasked to muddy the waters, many of them hate what they're doing and they have to do it. So they want us to go back to focus. I don't ever need to hear someone say it. You can almost tell it in the atmosphere. You can smell it. You can sense it all around. It's those who have the blackmail that are desperate and depend on those people to muddy the waters. So go, oh my goodness, there's your reaction. Immediately go back to what you're focused on. Don't allow them to capture you and your attention, because your focus is much more important. And your life, and it's a short life, and we all need to understand that we should be able to live it to the best of our ability. And there's a lot of people struggling right now. There's a lot of people tasked with doing stuff they don't like. So I'm so glad you brought up Muddy Waters, and I'm so glad that Carol brought up Whitney Webb, because these are things we really need to discuss, because we've got big boys playing big games, and some of them are tasked to do it. Some of them are fighting for their people in their countries, and some of them are malicious and have horrible intent. And we just need to stay focused and understand, when big boys play, there's ways to dodge and weave, stay out of their way, let the big boys do their thing, but then we slip on through and we make logic as females, and it's possible. And we use our feelings and our emotions to feel what's going on. We navigate thoroughly, and we stay focused, because it's about protecting our nest.
It's a lot of nests. There's a lot of nests to protect.
Yes, and there's a cutie pie
Million.
in Tara's nest right now.
Yeah. Oh, not right now. They're gone. There she
Cutie
is.
pie.
Sorry, guys. I just had to do a little impromptu hug and kiss.
Yeah, no problem. That's what the nest is all about.
Exactly. So yeah, so what we need to realize all the time is that, our prayers really matter, because as we just discussed, there are literal wars going on between these, good and evil, to put simply. Real fighting, real action, real things that we will know some of, but not all of. But if that's why we talk about also antennas too, is that you can follow along with your heart, which will inform your mind. And with what we're absorbing all the time, we got to let our mood drive us. And sometimes we want to, our mind wants everything, and we're putting it in double speed. And other times we're like, I just need a song. I just want to relax, or I just want to hear nothing and just, go outside, something like that. But
Well,
so
our
switching
antennas can broadcast too,
broadcast too. So you don't need to just stay in one place, just
Mhm.
receiving the same. You can move around. And when it comes to these psyopers, I could talk more about people that I have followed over the years that I feel like are psyoping on the side of good. But I'll check in with them every once in a while, because I'm not looking to get tricked. And even if I know, that's the thing, even if they're tricking you, it's like they're tricking you with like a horror movie, but still when you hear it and see it, you have physical sensations to it. So sometimes it's just like something that's just a button away, when you're like, you know what, this isn't vibing with me right now. Click.
Well, to get back for a minute to the Internet of Eyes, I think it's all dependent on the frequencies of 5G and 6G. And without that, it doesn't work. So there really is a simple fix. It's not like a total done deal. It's been going on for years and years, and it got a big push the last couple of years. But the final mile is not installed, and it's not. We can still change things.
Yeah.
We have to focus on that. It's not the final solution quite yet.
No. And we know that we have to win. Like, we know that losing is not an option. So therefore, that kind of focus that we're talking about is like, in the past, the distractions have been able to be a lifestyle, just because people have put too much faith in, this and that are going to take care of business for them. But now that we recognize that, like, after we rest, after our vacation, after our song, after our bath, after our walk, we get right back to focus. Okay. Because that is what is new, is that there is a planetary shift where people have a mission, they have a soul mission that isn't going anywhere. They realize that, like, their whole life has built up to this time when we would fight for the ultimate fight for humanity. And so therefore, just because people don't realize it, you know, we are going to put our shields together, just like those shield maidens. And that's, you know, what we're doing.
Yep, that's what we're doing.
Somebody should draw that, by the way, because that would be really cool.
The shield,
Bunch of us. Yeah, it doesn't
the
have to be
shields
just like
around the nest.
like when they layer them together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just we have to continue to have faith, and we have to continue to bring everything that we're seeing. You know, the fact that, like I say, oh, there's this distraction operation going on, I think it's interesting. It's not necessarily bad. We know we're fighting bad. As a matter of fact, last night when I was laying down, I actually put the Alex Jones, Kanye, whatever interview and just laid down and drifted, you know, I was just relaxing, just so I could feel the whole operation being played out, just not the clips, you know. And I was like, all right, I get it.
Well, I think sometimes people ask me, you know, how can you keep looking at all this horrible stuff? You know, isn't that just so negative? But really, that's how it gets undone, is to look at it and to shine the light there. And so it doesn't feel horrible. It feels like it has to be done. Somebody's going to have to look at it and show it for what it is. So I guess we've all stepped up to that.
Yeah.
And it is difficult when the people you love don't understand. It is difficult, but it's becoming, they're starting to see it. They're starting to finally see it horrifically because of the damage. The damage is starting to show now.
Sure to remind my friends, and what helped is that I've always been very hyperactive, and I've also been very passionate, even about just the smallest of things. Like we have peach trees that we planted for our neighborhood, so that each year when we got the crop, we could have these little baskets, and we would, you know, I'd take my little my little cherry tomatoes, and then add the peach trees and the peaches, and then, you know, we'd go apple picking, and I would bring back a couple and I'd make a card. I'm so happy to be your neighbor. And like, I would get so excited and passionate about it. And I tell other people to do it. And so that's been to my benefit, because people have seen my passion when it's come to the crazy of these last 2.5, almost 3 years. And so it was kind of like a little bit of rolling of the eyes. Oh, well, Amber's passionate about something again. What is it? And then it was kind of like, well, you know, and then the ones who were kind of like, well, you know, really living in fear, they didn't want to hear it. They knew my heart was in the right place. They didn't want to say, I'm not your friend anymore, but they couldn't handle it with what I was asking and what I was saying, because fear makes people close down. And one thing they did understand, and they still to this day, is we can be pretty much an ass to Amber, and she'll still forgive us and be nice, and she won't forget it. She'll remind us one day when we're all having a good time, you know, just out of jest, but she's not going to hold it against us in a way where she'll never speak to us again. So thank goodness I've always been hyper and obnoxious, so that I was allowed that. And I was never like the quiet one who was very centered. Nope. No, not, that was way more like crazier than that. And so that's been a benefit. I cannot say that it was ever a benefit before now. Like, this is the only time it's actually worked to my benefit. But I've seen lots of people have to say goodbye to friends and family. And that is heart-wrenching. You know, it is, I can't imagine just how your government could do such a thing, and mankind could do that to people when we only have one life to live. You know, this is very sad. And it's very much so a raping of your existence. And what they're doing is raping our chance at living. They're taking a portion of our life and throwing us into a catastrophic event, and then seeing who floats and who sinks. And I think that instead of doing that, they could be shepherds. And the fact that they choose to do this instead tells me exactly what type of person that they are.
Well,
and
that's exactly
I want
why.
I want a shepherd. I don't
Well,
want
that's why we have
a
to
persecutor.
hold them accountable. That's our role. And that's one thing that's so amazing about all the ospreys I've ever met is that they don't seem to be motivated by fear. Somehow, I don't know why, but that's something we all share is like why are so many people don't want to see it because it's scary. But we
Maybe
want to see it because we want to dissolve it.
that's what I was gonna say. Carol, do you think it's not that they're not, ospreys aren't afraid, and it's not that they're, somehow immune to it. It's that they want to know, wait a minute, I have fear. What is this fear from? I
Mhm.
need to resolve this fear. I need to figure out, I don't want other people to fear. There's got to be a basis or something that stirred this up. The
Mhm.
more I know about it, the less I'll fear and the more I can move forward. I'm stuck right now. I need to keep moving forward because I want to grow in
Mhm.
understanding. And they know that this is our life, and every moment it's intruded upon, that takes away from what we can get from the world and what we can give back. And so I think it's like this drawn of like, wait, what is happening? And this
Mhm.
this fight instead of flight and instead of freeze.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it's a deep curiosity to
Yeah.
figure it out, a drive to figure it out.
Yeah.
So that's
and you have a defensiveness that doesn't have to be fear based. Like
mhm.
you can build up um, just your feeling of being cautious in any situation, just looking around, seeing what's going on, seeing what you feel. Um, we, I think I told you guys before that, my grandpa always told me if anybody ever attacks you, you fight them on the spot. Don't ever let them take you somewhere else. And
Oh yeah.
that's kind of what we're
Mhm.
talking about right now is that
Yeah.
those of us that are like, okay, we need to fight this. It's like a disease. It will get worse if people don't
Mhm.
step up to it. And the more of us that do step up to it, just like an immune system, the more we can
Mhm.
literally combat this. And
It is
so,
natural medicine, isn't it? To
yeah,
do
That's
that.
a
yeah,
great way to describe it, because
Mhm.
if you're being kidnapped, you don't allow them to take you somewhere else. You fight. And it's kind of like when these things happen, they wanted to kidnap our minds. They wanted to kidnap the very
And our
essence
immune
of who we
system.
were. Right. And then we're supposed to just like let them take us to that place. And then once we get there, we figure out, oh, this isn't a good place. No, no, no. Wait a minute. Before I let you take me anywhere, it seems like you're trying to capture everything that I am, the very essence of me, and tell me to let go of everything and give unto you everything. And yet, not even the creator has ever asked me for that. I have the free will to choose whether or not to give that to the creator. And yet, here's another human being demanding this of me. Hold up, wait, beep, 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 back that up. This isn't working for me. Like, you're not making any sense to me.
Mhm.
No, no, you're taking too much authority. You need to calm down and step back and understand you're demanding something of me that the force that we call a creator has never demanded, and gave us a free will to choose, and yet
I
you're
never
overstepping
would.
that boundary in science. That's not okay.
That's not science either.
That's not either. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I meant, it's kind of, it's like almost like the magnetic pressure too, when you try to get pushed one way,
Mhm.
if your magnetism doesn't go that way, you like automatically skirt in
Repel.
the other
Mhm.
direction. Yeah, because the other thing that Gramp said was go for the eyes, because if they can't see, then
Mhm.
it's harder for them to
Well, those
come
would
after
be
you.
all those cameras, those 500 million billion cameras that have just got installed. That might be a little meme there. Go for the eyes.
Yeah, go for the eyes. That's true. The eye in the
Mhm.
sky.
The eye in the sky. Well, the eye in the sky is the eye on the telephone pole, which is within our means.
Isn't it funny how the eye in the sky can't find the murderers and the rapists and the people
Right.
doing the horrible thing, but the
Or
eye in
It's
the
who
always
did?
sky can see
conveniently turned off.
and what I
Yeah.
chose to feed my family. Like the eye in the sky can hear my opinion on something that has to do with my own personal freedom. The eye in the sky can't find the corruption and the child trafficking. No, the eye in the sky can't see that. And that's when you know.
Well, the eye in the sky
that's
helps.
somewhat against the eye in the sky. You know,
Yeah.
it seems like your priorities a bit skewed, Mr. Eye in the Sky.
Well, the algorithms drive all those things, all those skewed priorities. And so we think we have autonomy. We think we can vote with our phones or in our personality little whatever it is that kids do, and their intentions are known, but it's just an illusion. The algorithms just say, okay, we'll put that here and we'll use it to dig, to poke you, to make you do what we want you to do. But why does it not work for us? I don't know.
Hang on, my cat's trying to get my fish. Hold on.
Right, the cats. I thought there was a little kitty over there. That's so funny.
She had a black one on her
Well,
lap.
I would say, seeing as how it's Kanye Day, I'll just say that you probably saw he was wearing the actual face covering in the Alex Jones interview. Did you guys see that?
Oh goodness, for show.
So you're gonna see it because it's everyone has clips of it everywhere, because he was literally saying things like on purpose to be very, to get attention.
Yeah,
things that he
pretty much saying he liked Hitler. I mean, just good grief.
So
I mean, I think he's showing us it's theater. Don't you think?
Oh, it's theater.
Like,
it's totally theater.
They're making me do this, and watch this. I'm going to show how stupid they are and what they're demanding for me to do.
Exactly. And so he had, this is what I thought was funny, was that he said, two things I thought was funny, where he goes, Bezos can put whatever documentary he wants, but if a basketball player puts it's going to ruin his career or something. And the other thing that he did was he brought out this net and a bottle of Yahoo, and he was talking to Netanyahu, and he was like, and like, this is such theater. This circus is so on purpose.
Well, I mean, if Alex owes a lot of money, and so does Kanye, I mean, I'm sure they're getting lots of money to do this. I mean, good Lord,
maybe.
Help us all. I mean, who needs soap operas nowadays? Like,
well,
the old soap operas were the wrestling matches for the men, and the soap operas, General Hospital, or what did I call them? As Our Stomach Churns, Days of Our Wives. It's like literally. And then for the men, it's like Hulk Hogan and eat your face and stuff like that. And now we turn to YouTube and website theatrical performances. It's very embarrassing for the human race.
Well, okay, it is embarrassing, but we have to remember some people need that kind of medium to catch their attention. So we really want things to be like, we don't want things to be presented to like young people as like this or that. We want it to be like just so invigorating, of like the way you look at nature when you're like, oh, look at how it all arranges, and so and those of us that are like, okay, move on, that's important too, because sometimes you do get caught up in things that are interesting to you, that you need to be spending your time better. So, it's a constant kind of tug of war. And because a big part of where the fight is in the information war, we have to think that the comms are more than most people even consider at all.
Yeah. I mean, I only saw a couple of clips of the Alex Jones things. I'm sure it's insane. I'm sure it's absolutely out of control, because I heard people talking about it. So the clips I saw was from other podcasts talking about it, like Tim Pool, because Kanye had just gone on there and he had walked off, and then it's just this big battle going on everywhere where people are anti and pro, and and it's kind of like they're trying to take the sting out of the topic, right? That's what it seems like. They're trying to take the sting out of specific topics that are taboo and it just comes off as clownish. But I get that there's a lot of people who need that crazy to come out so that everyone calms down and is able to have a conversation, because there are people manipulating Hollywood and manipulating things and people that is doing a detriment to the morality and growth of our children. And they don't belong to one specific group. They belong to a group of people who like a lot of money and are willing to do whatever it takes to make money. And that's their commonality, because they come in all shapes and sizes and colors. And people who do that aren't very religious to begin with. So attributing to them to a religion is nonsensical. And so I think that Kanye's confused. A lot of people are confused. And when they do, like you were saying, they do this clown show, it kind of allows for people to kind of open up. And those who would automatically shut down and go, this is unacceptable, we don't talk about this, this is bad, it makes them go, wait a minute, let's kind of differentiate. Who are those making money? Like, who are those raping young actresses and actors in Hollywood? Who are those abusing children? Who are those in charge of the Balenciaga? Like, someone else is doing a thing, and if you just add one more A to Balenciaga, and it's Balenciaga.
No, they did it. They did it in one of their photo shoots. The photo shoot themselves.
If you look that up in Latin on Google, it says "ball is king," and so literally this is their photo shoot saying "ball is king," And so a lot of people, it's kind of like that used to be called conspiracy. That used to be called crazy. Here it is. It's not. But here's the problem. Kanye is being a victim right now, right? And yet he's allowing his children, and he's taking up for the very company that is stating ball is king, right? And then he's calling himself Jesus, or he's saying he represents Jesus. That's a misappropriation of the faith that you say you have. So, when you say you have a faith, back it up, no matter what that faith is. Once you don't, I'm looking at you as someone full of shenanigans that actually I shouldn't listen to what you say your foundation and your solid way of thinking is. Whether you're confused, whether you're being taken advantage of, whether you're told to put on the shenanigans, matters not. What matters is you're not following biblically, or you're not following what you say that faith is you follow. And I think that should enhance, people should be able to understand that, and that adds another layer to it. Because when they say, oh, he's defending us because he believes in Jesus, does he? Does he? If he's going to allow his children, he's going to defend a company that says ball is king.
I think my personal opinion is that he's trying to climb out of victimhood. And from some of the things that I've heard him say, I feel like, well, he said blatantly he doesn't want his children involved in it. So yeah. I feel like his personal mission is he's going to do what he can to try to get them out of it. But I think that when it comes to what's a little bit more of an important line to the whole thing, and you're right about the ball thing, is that one of the artists, I know Demna is the one that those guys know. I don't really know a lot about it, kind of weird, but that Lata Volkova that has some sick stuff, she's linked to Ukraine. Oh, so this whole thing is linked to Ukraine. It's linked to Marine Abramovich and all this satanic stuff. So yeah, you can get caught up in the weeds, but the weeds are connected to the river, and the river's going to the ocean. So we have to recognize that when you look at the big picture and you get the bird's eye view, you can see, say, the path to Ukraine. You can close up on 2014 if you want to, which is something that I think we should have a whole show about. But so you just recognize what's important, what's the distracting factors of the whole thing, and what are the calms, because it's kind of like all situations. There's message for those all levels. So whatever you are, bad guy, good guy, super detailed analytics, or just art, there's something for you. And so all together, that's why we piece together these big pictures.
Yeah. And I think for me, what's the saddest is there are real human beings that are suffering. They're suffering in Ukraine. They're suffering in Russia. They're suffering in Poland now. The stress, the trauma, the reliving of family members that are older, that have lived in war before, the children that are now seeing it for the very first time. and now it's going to affect the rest of their life. And to minimize that and to say, well, this is just the way that it goes, there's something missing in the person when they look at it like, well, you know, this is what's going on. Well, it wouldn't be going on if we weren't dealing with highly corrupt individuals that were absolutely easily corruptible, who then were easily maneuvered to do these things to affect quite a few human beings. And I think it's very callous. And there's no one that can say they serve the Lord, they serve the Creator, or they're just very much so someone who cares about our world, who cares about nature, who cares about the betterment of human beings. And in the same token, minimize that there's real people that are harmed. There's real people dropping dead of heart attacks and strokes. There's real people suffering on the streets. There's real people addicted to drugs. There's real people that are getting fast acting cancer. There's real people that overdose on fentanyl because they thought they had an opioid that they bought that they couldn't get from their doctor. There's real people that every day wake up and wonder where their marriage went or what happened because they've lost touch with one another because of the trauma going on. There's real people watching their kids change before their very eyes and not know their own identity because the schools have taken upon themselves to talk about the child's sexuality rather than teach the child what they're there to teach them. There's real people looking in the mirror and wondering what went wrong. There's real people every single day that are questioning the reality of their life and crying out. And for those who minimize that, you know, let the Lord rebuke thee. Because there's not at any time that I can just make an excuse for someone who overshadows or minimizes the pain of others by saying, well, this is just the way that it has to be.
Well, that was really well said, Amber. And I think it kind of answers Tara's question of what matters. I think everything matters. And that's the opposite answer to nothing matters. And yes. we're hearing that a lot. It's like, well, why does that matter? Why do we care about that? Well, we care because we care, you know, and because it does matter.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, when we talk about what kind of drove us to these positions of, you know, being willing to, you know, not be scared in situations or try not to be scared, is that for me personally, you know, because we've all had to face up to things that we didn't know, right? And I'm sure I'm not alone here. Just the idea of people, because it's not just any type of people, especially children, being imprisoned and locked up somewhere and tortured. I mean, it's like these people are praying for somebody to come save them, and we're the people that are here on the earth. So it's like people need to physically do something to save these people. So it's just like just the idea of like someone being in that situation, and then one is enough, but these are systems. So it's like you need to stand up against that. And it's like when it comes to this high fashion, which, you know, I've always been an art appreciator, you know, and a lot of the fashion shows have been, they tend to be weird, pushing the envelope, right? But now we know, we come to the conclusion, it's a front, okay? It's definitely a front.
Yes. My job will always, and my task will always be to protect my family. You know, my husband protects us, and then I protect my children. And I try to protect my neighbors, my family, my husband's family, by, you know, paying attention, by being as sober as I can as a human being, and looking at what we face when we're dealing with these types of negative forces, right? And so I take that very seriously. And so maybe someone is just not that type of person. Maybe someone that knows me is like, I'm just not like that. I'm totally okay with that. Here's the deal. Understand that's who I am. Know that it benefits you for me to be that way. And know that I'm willing to lose sleep. I'm willing to research. I'm willing to look into the details. I'm willing to do the things that some people can't. Some people are too compromised to do. Some people are lost. Some people are blind. And some people don't care. But you need people that are guarding and looking and watching. You need watchers. You need researchers. And you need those that demand truth. I will step up to be that. Move out of my way. I do it because I love. We all do it because we love. It's our task. We're fine with it. Don't try to make us feel bad about it, and we won't make you feel bad about tapping out.
Well, I think I've said this before, but I think deep down, when we listen, we can all be each other's angels, no matter who
Yep.
you are. And even animals do this, you know.
Yes.
When they get to know you, they listen and they're there at the right moment. And we don't know what that right moment is, but we're paying attention. We're here, and we'll do whatever we can. So
Yes.
it makes
Well,
a
you know,
difference.
there's this one video that I forgot to send you guys. I meant to, and it's so cute. It's like an older, like I don't know, like a bigger bird who is like not able to fly, and like a little finch or something comes and is feeding him. Like,
That's very
you know,
sweet. Oh goodness.
it's like
Mhm.
that's how we roll, people. Come on.
Yeah, right. Or
And,
like the mouse and the
I've never
lion.
begrudged. I've never begrudged someone who looks at it like, no, we have to be in Ukraine. We have to, or no, we have to support Russia, or no, we have to. That's their path, and that's their purpose, right? And I don't begrudge anybody. And in fact, I gather lots of information from individuals that are passionate like that. However, in that, I have to walk my path. And in my path, it's that I want people to have a good life, and a life in which they can, on their last breath, have lots of memories that take them where they're going next. You know, and I would like for some of those things to not be full of trauma and sadness and desperation and cries of help. And so whatever I can do to help and assist in that, that's what my task is. That's what I was born for. And I take that very seriously, just like I take seriously other people's path. I won't intrude on their path. I just ask that they stay off of mine.
Well, I think we're at the top of the hour here. So,
Well, it's been lovely talking with
Yes.
you ladies today. And also I think that, you know, there's a lot of blessings going. December, kicking up December, last month of the year. So, you know, let's reel it in the way that we know how, all protecting our nests and our families and communicating in the best ways that we know how, enjoying ourselves with music, laughter, and don't be afraid to be like a cat and curl up in every little sun ray that you see.
Yes.
that's
And I
good.
have one in my lap right now.
Yay! Aw.
I'm a dog person, but I love my cats too, except when they chase my fish. I'm like, leave the fish alone. I already fed you. What's wrong with you? But yeah, have
Well,
a
I think
great
the
weekend, ladies.
Oh, sorry. What were you
Yeah,
saying?
have a great week and enjoy your families.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think this dark winter time that we're in is the time to prepare the seed, the
Yeah.
seed that's going to
Yeah.
sprout.
100%.
Great.
We're getting better.
Yeah,
Yes.
Getting better
We
all
are.
the time.
Mhm.
All right.
All
See
right,
you guys
everybody.
later. Have a great rest of the day.
All right.
Bye, Osprey World. Eek, eek.
Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. I want to fly like an osprey to the sea. Fly like an osprey, let my spirit carry me. I want to fly like an osprey till I'm free. Lord, to the revolution. Feed the babies that don't have enough to eat. Shoe the children, no shoes on the feet. How's the people living in the street? Oh, there's a solution. I want to fly like an osprey to the sea. osprey. Let my spirit carry me. I want to fly like an osprey till I'm free. Oh, through the revolution. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future.